All right, well, thank you all for coming out today. We wanted to take a moment to stress just how important it is for people to come and give public comment on the record at our hearing tomorrow night at 5:30 in Harrisburg City Council chambers. By law, the coordinator is supposed to incorporate comment received into a final recovery plan. And after the conclusion of the hearing, she will have 10 days to incorporate that comment. Also by law, tomorrow is the last day to give comment. And if people haven't already, they should either attend the hearing or submit comments via our website or write the coordinator directly. Now, much has been said about this plan. It's clear that it won't work for the residents of the city, and I'm encouraged. I'm pleased by the feedback that we've received. We've gotten scores of comments through the website. We've had many letters come through the city, and I know many of the coordinator directly. Almost all of them in one clear voice saying this plan won't work for Harrisburg and we need legislative change. So I think the process is a good one, but legally I want to remind people that they do need to come and have their voices be heard, and if they don't comment, then they may lose that chance to actually alter the course of the recovery plan. So tomorrow night, 5:30, we hope we'll have a big crowd. In fact, I hope there'll be so many people that we'll have standing room only in City Council chambers. Questions?
Mayor, I'm going to ask you a question, if you could just look
Yes.
in that direction.
Yes.
There are a lot of folks who still feel that their voices don't matter, even as big as this issue is. What would you say to them? That if they come down, it's not going to make a difference?
So what I would say is that I understand that feeling. I believe that it is rather commonplace, and people don't trust government. They don't trust that they can really make a difference. But the law is clear, and the law states that the coordinator is to consider public comment and to make those changes if she chooses in the recovery plan amendment. So I believe that she will listen to the public, and I believe that the plan will be amended because, again, I don't see the plan as it is currently written as workable for the city of Harrisburg. And I think the public can also comment not just about the recovery plan, but also with an eye towards the other audience, which is the state legislature, which is currently on recess, but which will be returning in September. And I think a good showing, a strong showing now, will further reinforce that they've got work to do when they get back in the fall. So I think voices do matter. It's an essential part of our democracy, and I hope people will come out and be heard. And I don't think they'll be alone. I think there is strength in numbers, and I think you'll see a lot of people talking about different aspects of the plan, why they don't work, and why they'd like to see the legislature amend Act 47. Questions? Yeah.
If there's enough of a public showing, talk about the legislative change, how much of an impact does that have? Just taking into consideration how much of could it sway the airport?
So I believe that the coordinator has a responsibility to take those comments into consideration. And ultimately what she decides is hers to decide. But I think there's room for comment in the law, and that's why we want to take advantage of it. This is what the law provides as a means of changing the coordinator's plan. It's especially important in this instance for Harrisburg because the plan doesn't work. 100% plus property tax increase over 3 years doesn't work. It would be devastating for the city of Harrisburg. So we need an alternative plan, and we need that stated, I think, pretty clearly, and not only what the coordinator is writing, but also as we petition the Hill to change the law in the fall.
Is it inappropriate for you, Mayor, to talk about possible amendments, or we're just not there yet? You said that the coordinator could make some amendments to this plan, to this proposal.
Well,
what scenarios are out there, or is it just too soon to get into?
I can say that I think there's a lot of people that still haven't fully considered this plan or come to terms with the plan. So I believe the coordinator probably should extend the time available for people to comment on the plan. I know the school district is very interested in commenting on the plan. I know the city is actively engaged in conversations with its bond insurer, which haven't concluded yet, but which could potentially alter the sort of long-term financial parameters of the plan. So it's a little premature to talk about specific amendments to the plan, but it is not premature to start the discussion and to put ideas on the record, and that's I think what we're looking to do. I think no comment is too simple or inappropriate for the comment period. I think people coming out. I know I had lunch with members of the business community today, and I know they've written letters and submitted those to the coordinator, and simple letters that basically say, if this plan's adopted, it's going to hurt my business. I think individuals can talk about how 100% property tax increase might affect their own wallets and their own livelihoods. And then if you start talking about how it's going to affect recruitment and public safety, recruitment of police officers, or other issues of retention and capacity at the city, then it really has a lot of ripple effects and tentacles. But it's a complicated issue. It's a financial issue. I just want to have a clear message to the public, which is, come out. Your voice will be heard. It will matter, and we'll all be there listening. And this is your opportunity to be on the record. Yes.
So as of now, does the council still plan to vote it down?
So if the plan were not amended in any way, I don't personally see how it would possibly be adopted. I wouldn't support it. I don't believe any member of council supports it. So perhaps that is an argument for coming out and speaking and seeing if the plan can be amended in such a way that it would find the support of City Council. I would also say that the law sets out the timeline, and the timeline is now for comment, and we'll see about how the plan might or might not get changed. Yeah. Yes.
What's the latest with the legislation to keep the special taxes? Is it still what you're going to pursue in September?
Yes. So there is a House bill co-sponsored by Patty Kim and Greg Rothman in the Pennsylvania House. There's also something moving on the Senate side, and when they reconvene in September, it will be sort of awaiting them. But then there will be a 10 legislative calendar days to basically pass a bill in one side and have it passed in the other side, House and Senate. In the midst of that, there is a planned hearing on Harrisburg for September 25th on the Hill, co-sponsored by 3 different committees, Government Affairs, Urban Affairs, and Finance. It'll bring a lot of legislators out, and it'll be our opportunity to really educate them on the realities of Harrisburg's financial situation. It's not impossible for them to pass a bill in 10 days. It is hard and unusual, but it can be done. And I think one thing that we have going for us is that so many people have spoken out about why this plan doesn't work that I think the pressure is beginning to build on the legislature in a positive way to make some corrections when they get back.
Mr. Mayor, are you saying that the legislature only have a 10-day window in September?
Yes,
And
they
then
have.
What about beyond September?
Well, they're not scheduled to return then again until next year. And if the law isn't changed, then or a plan isn't adopted which says something other than what the current plan says, then we would lose our taxing authority starting on January 1st. So we need to get it done this year. And ideally we get it done during the 10-day session that they're in town. Now, the legislature defines working days in a very generous way, so it's sort of 10 days. They managed to stretch it out from sometime in September through October, or a portion of time in October. So there is time to do it, but that'll be, all eyes will be focused on the Hill then.
Go ahead, sir.
So if it doesn't get passed, what sort of exit plan would work for Harrisburg?
So we'll sort of take this one step at a time. I believe that right now what's important is that we get the public on the record, we get business owners, we get property owners, we get residents, we get people from the surrounding municipalities also on the record, because this issue doesn't just affect Harrisburg, it affects the whole region, and Harrisburg's success is sort of key to the success of the whole region. So that's the step for today. Then we'll have 2 different avenues to potentially get to a better place. One is by having the coordinator amend the plan based on the feedback that she's going to hear, and the other is by having the legislature amend the law. I think that that one, if not both, of those scenarios is very likely between now and the end of the year. If they weren't to occur, then we would be looking at a deadline of January 1st and the potential expiration of 20% of our budget, $12 million in taxing authority, and that would be a disaster for residents, and it could even accelerate that 100% property tax increase, make it sooner. In other words, if nobody can agree on anything, everything gets voted down. We don't know. The city could end up in receivership. That's another possibility. We'd be right back to where we started 5 years ago. And to me, it's an easy solution. We just have to continue on the course that we've set. We need to stay the course. We're not asking for any new authority. We just want to keep what we have. And ultimately, it's the timelines imposed by the legislature on Act 47, which is putting the pressure on the process. It's what would potentially cause a major property tax increase. It's not the city's position, which is just keep the status quo. Yep.
Just a quick follow-up. Why would it end in January 1st? Would it be because if you still have 3 years?
Well, so the taxing authority that we have, we're currently in Act 47 right now until the end of this year. If we were to, I was working on a hypothesis that potentially if the city were to reject the plan, then potentially the city's taxing authority would expire in whole, or the city would go into receivership, and the receiver would have to sort of implement changes, or maybe the city would be kicked out of Act 47. So that's the scenario. If the council were to accept the plan, then it would be phased in over 3 years, but I really don't think that that is a likely scenario. You can speak to the members of council as I have, and not a single person is in favor of this plan.
Well, Mayor, where's that scenario of an extension? Is that still in play?
So you mean the passage of this 3-year plan?
Is that the passage of the 3-year plan? Would that be part of the so-called extension?
Yes, that's right. There's really a couple, maybe 3 different
Okay, that's
options.
right, the
All right.
I got you.
So one option is the legislature changes the law and we exit Act 47. Another option is that the coordinator amends the plan and maybe we keep our taxing authority based on an overwhelming outpouring of public feedback. A third option is that the plan isn't amended, and that would take us to, I think, a negative vote on the part of City Council, which could lead us to receivership and an even greater crisis. So we're all trying to work to find a workable solution, but ultimately it requires legislative action, and we're not going to know what they're going to do until September. So what I'm recommending for now is that the public certainly make their voices heard and get on the record and come out tomorrow night and talk about the plan. Yep.
Some say we shouldn't be taxing the commuters and rather attracting people to come live in Harrisburg. How can the city attract people into Harrisburg to live rather than trying to tax those who commute in?
So the exciting thing about Harrisburg is that the recovery has been working in Harrisburg. We are attracting more people into the city. The population's been growing. The tax base has been growing. Revenues have been increasing. We followed the plan to a T, and it's worked. It's working. What is actually not working is this arbitrary deadline that the legislature established, and this potential pulling the rug out from underneath us and the taking away of our taxing authority. It's that act which is, I think, causing doubt in the real estate markets, or maybe retarding the city's recovery in a larger sense. We can recover from it, but it really requires the legislature acting. And if you want to talk about commuter, the issue of a commuter tax, we don't have a commuter tax, but we do have a local services tax. It amounts to $2 a week for people who can afford it. And by making that choice, we have solved our structural deficit, and we have a workable balanced budget, and we are recovering. Would you rather have that, or would you rather have a 100% plus property tax increase on everyone in the city and the region? And I'll note that about 1/3 of the property owned in the city is owned by people who live in the region. It's not just owned by city residents. That would be devastating, a huge mistake to substitute $2 a week from people who can afford it for a 100% property tax increase. And that's sort of what we're talking about right now.
Do you think there's any way to make the property tax work that's being proposed?
No. Absolutely not. The city cannot withstand, the tax base can't withstand that high an increase. And you have to put that in the context of the other increases that are already planned, right? School district plans to raise its property taxes every year for the foreseeable future to the maximum amount allowed by law. Rates are very high for trash and for parking and for water and sewer in the city, so 100% would be devastating.